Naganadel deck, really just putting on a clinic against these big tag team Pokemon, being able to take 3 prizes essentially out of nowhere.
Yeah, we saw Blacephalon actually have some really good comebacks on camera earlier, where we were saying, oh, he can get the knockout with the Blacephalon, but it's going to take a lot.
He needs Welder 2 energy, another energy.
And then every single time we did that, he did it. So maybe we'll have to be a little bit more reserved in our doubting of what the Blacephalon GX deck can do this time around.
Yeah, and then, of course, Eric is playing one of probably the most winning decks on camera today, and that is the Pikachu Zekrom GX deck, really just showing that it's probably the most consistent deck right now in this format, the way people have built it.
Right, and I think our interview with Kenny Britton, our winner from the last round, actually said a lot, where Kenny said, I'm just trying to be consistent. This format is inconsistent, and I'm just trying to be as consistent as possible with my list. And I think that's really important. Consistency is king of all games, of course, of all games of Pokemon. Every deck you build, you want to be consistent. But especially in a format like this, Worlds, especially day 1, is kind of an all-or-nothing thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a regionals where you can go, oh, yeah, I went to regionals, I went 6-3, so I got some points, right? I didn't do what I wanted to do, but I got some points. Or, oh, man, I dropped when I had 9 wins. I'm going to get top 64 points or whatever. This is, you want to get 6 wins or nothing.
Yeah, and this is what's all on the line for these players here, and it's the ticket to get into day 2 and try to vie for that top 8 and then eventually that championship.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think? I know these decks each have a little bit of spice in each of them, but without talking about the specific deck list, what do you see in this matchup in general? How do you see this going?
So Wesley does play the Mew with that bench barrier, being able to stop Tag Bolt from really taking just prizes out of nowhere. And granted, Eric does play that Tapu Fini from Unified Minds, being able to attack for 1 colorless if your opponent has an Ultra Beast in play. And it does 100 damage, but Blacephalon is weak to water. It knocks out a Blacephalon GX with 1 energy, and I'm pretty sure that's what's going to be the deciding factor this match.
Yeah, Tapu Fini could actually just kind of solo this game, just attacking for 1 energy, taking a basically free knockout. It's such a huge deal, and there it is, actually.
Speak of the card, and it shall show up. Starts that Tapu Fini, does not need to search it out with one of his 2 Pokemon communication, and that is probably the best start you can ever hope to ask for in this.
Yeah, dedicating no resources to getting out the card that, again, that we think just might actually swing the entire match in his favor, that Tapu Fini. Is there any risk of, are you maybe kicking yourself a little bit for starting with it because you're afraid it's going to get knocked out early?
You could, but you could also just take a prize on this Poipole next turn with 1 energy. Maybe your opponent doesn't hit the Welder, doesn't take the knockout, and if they do, you lost an energy and a Tapu Fini. It's not too bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Wesley does know what the Tapu Fini does. He sees it across the table from him. He's going to have to prepare, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jimmy, but I just don't feel like there's really a way around this Tapu Fini as long as Eric has an energy card, right? You just kind of have to accept that the Tapu Fini is going to take as many prizes as it's going to.
It's always going to take at least 1 knockout, and the way it's set up, it's going to take this knockout on a Poipole unless it gets retreated. You could have an option to maybe retreat to a Blacephalon to just trigger Beast Ring right away, but that's super risky to do.
Yeah, it seems like really high risk there. Just giving up a Blacephalon, giving up 2 prizes. And immediately, I'm glad that we actually got to talk about this before the basics were flipped over, because immediately it just becomes so relevant in the game. And we're not even talking about the Pikachu Zekrom deck as much. We're just talking about this specific tech, which is 1 card.
Yeah, 1 card, and it's 1 card that people have kind of like written off. They're like, well, I don't know if Blacephalon's really going to be that popular, and this card's really only good against that card. So you have to think, do I dedicate the deck space to this card? But this Pikachu and Zekrom deck is one of those decks where you play so much discard through Identity Change and Electromagnetic Radar that if you don't need it in this matchup, you can just discard it.
Yeah, definitely. One of the, you only have so many slots, especially as we saw Kenny Britton mention earlier, that Pikachu and Zekrom is the most consistent deck, and you want to keep it consistent. You always want to do that, and you only have so many slots for these kind of tech cards, these silver bullet cards. But it looks like a big part of this World Championship was going to be predicting the metagame, was going to be innovating, and that's exactly what Eric has done here. And let's see if he can lead him to a victory.
Yeah. So Wesley actually just attached to the active, got a couple more Poipoles in play, and then passed the turn. So he has to know this active is going to get knocked out, but he might be feeding Poipoles to Eric. And then once that happens, he'll get the Blacephalon in play, Beast Strings will come down, Tapu Fini will be no more, and hopefully he'll have good enough setup by then.
Yeah, it's just got to be kind of disheartening to say, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice these Pokemon to it. I'm gonna feed the Poipoles to it, and then my big turn will be knocking out a Tapu Fini and not even dealing with the potential, Raichu, Alolan Raichu, Pikachu, and Zekrom GX on my opponent's bench. Obviously, a lot of this depends on the setup from Eric in the early turns here, but that Volkner, equals a Lightning Energy equals a knockout already.
Yeah, and it's looking like Volkner will net that Lightning Energy and a Cherish Ball for Eric here. Has Electromagnetic Radar in hand as well as an Erica's, so he'll have a supporter for next turn, or if he opts to Dead-A change, he could have a brand new hand. He also does have that Pokemon Communication in his hand, so it is a pretty easy out to get that Tapu Koko Prism.
And this specifically, I think, is why the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, one of the many reasons why it was my top choice and why I think a lot of players have brought it here today, is because you have so many ways to search where a lot of other decks don't. That's been the kind of big thing about this format. The big difference is that there's no more search cards. And look, Eric's just searching everything he wants.
Yeah, his hand is probably the best you could have asked for. He drew the Electromagnetic Radar for the turn, had the Volkner. He's going to Communication this Pikachu and Zekrom GX back into the deck, get that Tapu Koko Prism, and then he's going to be able to play everything down, Dead-A change, and then just draw into more stuff. And then, yeah, I'll take a knockout, but I also have this Full Blitz set up for next turn.
Yeah, I like to call this going off. You just have everything you need. You're not worried about anything. You've spent all of these cards. You've searched your deck a million times. Your opponent can not do the same.
Yeah, and the good old Cherish Ball into a Pokemon Communication, it's the poor man's Ultra Ball.
Yeah, right. The build your own Ultra Ball. If only Pikachu and Zekrom, if only Lightning types had some kind of supporter that could maybe attach extra energy and draw cards.
Nah, man, no, that'd be too good.
All right, and there is an attachment. Like you said, everything comes down. Attachment on the active Pokemon. We're going to see a Dead-A change now.
All right. Hand isn't too good, but he'll be able to Dead-A change next turn if he wants to. You don't really want to keep any of those cards in this matchup. But so far, his turn has been pretty good. Thankfully, he opted not to discard the Lightning Energy from his hand to make the Tapu Koko more worth it for Dance of Ancients.
That's just so
because he didn't have a Lightning in his hand after that.
Exactly. So Dance of the Ancients isn't quite turned on yet, but he does get the attack, get the knockout. Poiple becomes the active Pokemon, and immediately Wesley is under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, this Tapu Fini will take at least 2 knockouts, I believe, barring maybe something like a Welder with a couple Naganadals in play.
Yeah, and then of course, we just talked about that Tapu Koko, wasn't able to kind of go off as much, explode this turn, but it can just do it next turn. It can just wait for as long as necessary to eventually accelerate. And there's an energy on the active. If that gets knocked out, the Tapu Koko becomes live, becomes its maximum, and it's got to be so hard if you're Wesley here.
Yeah, and if you were playing this Pikachu and Zekrom deck back in Columbus for that North American International Championships, that Tapu Koko would have been gone so fast. The loss of Guzma really just makes it so where you can play the waiting game. You don't have to really make the move, and since you're putting on so much pressure with this one prize attacker in this Tapu Fini, it's his game to control.
Yeah, those are the two things kind of in a very general macro sense that I've seen throughout this tournament. The big differences between the old format and this one are that your hand and your bench are both a lot safer. Without Let Loose, without Guzma, there are still ways around that. There's still custom catchers, there's still reset stamps, but in general, the things that you're doing, you can afford to search for a card and wait for a turn or two, put a card in your bench and wait for a turn or two, and that's really benefits decks like this.
Yeah, and there is a Cherish Ball from Wesley here. Searches out that new Naganadal GX, being able to Ultra Conversion, discard an Ultra Beast to draw 3 cards, reminiscent of Zoroark's trade ability, but a little bit more restrictive here.
Yeah, it's not quite a Zoroark, but really what is?
Nothing. Yeah, discarding the Blacephalon in his hand to draw 3 cards does net an Ultra Space off the top.
Ultra Space, one of the cards that really helps this deck function. We just talked a lot about how Pokemon Search is at an all-time low and how the Pikachu and Zekrom deck has that kind of an advantage. And Ultra Space is just besides being able to be interacted with, is one of the best ways that you can just search Pokemon out.
Right. Attaches that fire energy from his hand. Ultra Space will come down, as well as a Cynthia, shuffling away both of the B-strings in his hand, but those cards are not useful right now. He will need his opponent to take at least another knockout.
B-strings are going back into the deck. Wesley will draw a fresh hand of 6 cards here.
And this is the rough part, too. If Wesley doesn't get the knockout this turn, which it looks like he's not going to be able to, then Eric will be able to just free retreat this Tapu Fini and start attacking with full blitz if he wants.
Right.
And then you just have this Tapu Fini there, always threatening.
That's the thing, right? Is there's all this tension revolved around the Tapu Fini, but that's not even. Eric just has a regular deck, and then he also has this card that just destroys Wesley's deck, right? It just seems like every ounce of energy, every resource you put into knocking out the Tapu Fini or trying to play around the Tapu Fini just punishes you so hard when one of the best attackers in the game comes up and knocks you out.
Does get a Blacephalon GX off the Ultra Space, but it is too risky to put it down, and it passes the turn, and this is where Eric will need to turn on the gas and get a full blitz going to start stealing this game away.
Well, he can do it too. He's just considering exactly what he wants to do. Going to go ahead and use that Ultra Space, of course. Find that Dawn Wings.
Yeah, and that's the one benefit of playing this Dawn Wings Necrozma in the Pikachu and Zekrom deck is you can use your opponent's Ultra Space to get essentially a switch out of your deck.
Or in this case, it looks like it might just be using your opponent's Ultra Space to have a free card to discard.
It's not bad.
No, I mean, it's just, that's one of the things about stadiums, right, is that they can be interacted with and they can be used for both players, so it's not always just as simple as slamming it and playing it. Obviously, it benefits Wesley way more than it does Eric, but those little edges are there.
All right, does opt to get both of his tag teams from that electromagnetic radar. He does have a Dene GX in his hand as well. And so with that Dance of the Ancients, he does have an option to bench one of those.
It looks like considering which of the Pokemon he's going to play in which order.
Yeah, so it's hard because Tag Volt is a very good card against an opponent that has something like a Dene GX on the bench, but that Raichu, Alolan Raichu GX, does have that one-hit potential as well as being able to paralyze your opponent.
So we see Dance of the Ancients, one energy card on each of those big tag team Pokemon. We're going to Communication here. Eric just kind of has this whole, can search for whatever card he needs, just doing so much here, finding so much, just going to go ahead and pass here, getting rid of some cards he won't need. Not pass, sorry, but fail the Communication.
Yeah, and the Communication's actually pretty good here because he's able to put back one of the guys he doesn't want to discard.
Yeah, with that Dede change ability coming up, there's the energy switch as well onto
the tag switch.
Tag switch. Onto the Pikachu and Zekrom GX.
Yeah, coming out of Unified Minds, Tag Switch was one of the more hyped cards for this Pikachu and Zekrom deck. Just being able to full blitz and then move to energy, attach to energy, Tag Bolt is insane. But players have found it kind of limiting. And they've gone for more energy switch than Tag Switch in their deck. Most players use a 3-2. And it's just because Tag Switch only moves from a tag team to another one of your Pokemon, no matter if it moves to or not. Just sometimes you don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just Energy Switch is the worst card, but it's always on. Tag Switch is the better card, but it has restrictions. I think that happens a lot in the Pokemon TCG. A pretty clear sign that you should just play some amount of one and a lower amount of the other.
And the full blitz here is pretty great from Eric, able to charge up either the Raichu, Alolan Raichu, or the Pikachu and Zekrom itself. He does have Electro Power in his hand, and it's really just deciding what he wants to do. And goes on the Zeraora GX, still being able to attack 160, not too shabby. Electro Power does knock out Blacephalons.
Those 3 energy are on that Zeraora GX. We're going to see Heat Factory get activated here.
All right, Welder off the top. does seem pretty good. He might be able to attack with a Blacephalon if he wants to.
He has the Blacephalon. He has the Welder.
Double Custom Catcher as well. I don't know if he pulls the trigger on it now. You kind of want to take out this Pikachu and Zekrom, especially since you don't have a Mew on the bench. Tag Bolt is very scary. But
speaking of
Mew,
like you said earlier, name the card and it appears. You invoked its presence, Jeremy.
Commentator's Curse.
And it's going to make this game a lot harder for Eric.
Well, so now Wesley has an option. He could decide, well, maybe I should just Custom Catcher, take a knockout on something else.
And then drop the Mew.
And then drop the Mew. Especially since the energy did not go on the Raichu. Having to attack with the Zeraora means you're going to need to take another prize anyway. So if you take it on the Tapu Fini, it won't affect you too much. But one thing to note is Wesley only plays 3 Custom Catcher, so that's his 1 Gust effect for the game.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a consideration here. Is that you can do it, but should you do it? Should you use those resources, or should you just kind of play it a little bit safer and take the knockout on this big tag team?
Yeah, and it's looking like a pretty good comeback turn here for Wesley, and that's all thanks to Welder.
Yeah, I mean, Welder, I joked about them printing a lightning-type Welder, right? Because the idea is just ridiculous, because Welder is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it exists.
It exists, and it does what it does best, and that's charge up some beefy Pokemon to take some knockouts.
Did you attach return over there? No, I charged off. I've charged off 2 different times on this. You're right. Yep.
Looks like discard piles are being reviewed here.
Oh, he's debating if he wants to Ultra Conversion it away, but opts for the Evolution. Definitely the better choice.
A much safer line of play there. Just have the Neganadal in play, have that ability available to you for the rest of the game.
All right, still having that energy attachment for the turn as well, thanks to that Welder. And here we go. Knowing it's going to be knocked out from that Tapu Fini, removes all of the energy from the active Blacephalon, takes the knockout on that big tag team. And now down to 3 prizes to Eric's 5, soon to be 3.
We do see that Tapu Fini come right into the active position again. Tapu Fini just kind of sitting there saying, I'm gonna take knockouts. I already took 1, I already kind of did my job, but now you're offering up a free 1 and I just have to take it.
Thunder Mountain coming down for Eric here. Bumping that Heat Factory, Battle of the Prism Star Stadiums. Probably the 2 best Prism Stadiums.
Oh, definitely. I mean, obviously they're Prism Stars, so they have to be really powerful, and we've just seen them do so much for each of these decks. And I mentioned earlier how I really like that we're in a format where stadiums actually matter, and going back and forth with stadiums really matters. I think that
everyone's playing like 4.
Right, and that adds such a cool layer of complexity that I think is unique to Pokemon. I just love when stadiums are relevant.
So a reset stamp there, shuffling Wesley down to 3, hoping he does not draw into Beast Strings. Electro Power coming down as well.
Wesley putting the cards face down and then taking a quick peek, not giving us any information.
Oh yeah, I actually like this. So he's going to be attacking with that Zeraora GX, taking the knockout, and then leaving the Fini. Or no, opts to... All right. Takes the knockout with the Fini. Still has the Electro Power, another Electro Power in hand to take another knockout later. And he is down to 3 prizes here.
Do you think he's just trying to save that Zeraora for attacking later because he just has kind of a free out here?
It does have more HP, too.
Sure.
So it requires your opponent to have another energy on top of what he would need for something like the Tapu Fini. And you don't want to give up 2 prizes and then have your opponent just need 1 knockout anywhere, especially when you have the Mew on the bench.
Right. Mew, that low HP Pokemon that really swings some matchups, but is always a liability.
All right, and one thing to note here as well is Wesley is at 3 prize cards. That means Turning Point does 160 damage this turn. And if he's able to draw into his one of Beast Energy Prism, he'll be able to take the, or never mind, he has the knockout anyway.
He can take a knockout either way as long as he has an energy, right? Which he does have 1.
So charging up.
Discard pile.
And this is great. This is what he really needs. And then he just needs to get a Blacephalon set up to where he can take the knockout or keep a Welder with a couple energy in his hand.
Looks like he does have the Blacephalon 1 energy. I don't see a Welder, but I can't quite tell what all the cards are. Looks like he's considering what to do with that. Blacephalon decides to discard it to draw 3.
Oh, it's risky. Oh, draws a replacement one, though, and a
Immediately
B-string.
rewarded.
So now here's what it comes down to. So if you play the Blacephalon and then B-string to it, you have essentially game set up for next turn.
Right.
The one thing that you can run into is if you see double custom catcher come from Eric and taking the knockout on that Blacephalon GX on the bench, you have no real attacker next turn, especially since he's discarded 2 Blacephalon, I think. So he only has 1 left, and it could be getting a little dicey here, but you see that Ultra Space in his hand. I think he might be pretty locked up, barring what Eric's going to do.
Yeah, making that play, trying to make use of the B-string while he can. 2 prizes remaining for Wesley. We thought that the Tapu Fini would take over this game. We thought the matchup was going to be in Eric's favor, but the game's not quite over yet, but Wesley has a pretty commanding lead here.
Yeah, essentially has game on board. Eric's really going to have to look for, looks like reset stamp.
I'm going to play.
Being able to put Wesley down to 2 cards.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I really like about this sort of deck, this kind of, I guess you could say the same thing about Malamar. When you're accelerating energy and you want energy on the board, and it's not so much to do with your hand, is that you're so much safer from reset stamp, right?
Yeah.
He still has, all the energy he'll need without any cards in his hand, and any cards that he happens to have are just bonuses.
And looking at Eric's hand as well, it does not look like he can get much going. Drops that Hoopa from Unified Minds, has the Evil Admonition attack, being able to do 10 plus 20 for every Pokemon with your, every ability on your opponent's side of the field. Granted, it does not do a lot of damage like the previous Weavile.
Yeah, not a card that we see super often. Kind of here more for the Malamar matchup, I would guess. Not the greatest in this matchup, but it can still do some things.
All right, so this is what we have to do. The GX attack, but I don't believe... Yeah, switch it with one Pokemon. Okay, yeah, so being able to just bring up that Hoopa, it's a 1-prizer. He's going to need his custom catchers right here, and being reset stamp down to 2, but draws a Cynthia for the turn.
Yeah, he drew the Cynthia out of his last reset stamp, too. So these reset stamps have not set Wesley too far back here, as we're going down right to the wire here with 2 prizes remaining for each player.
Oh, man, this is the crucial turn of the game here. Cynthia will need to have him draw into 2 of his 3 custom catchers. He does have another draw out in that Naganadel GX, but I don't even know how many Ultra Beasts he has left in his deck.
We will have to see here 6 cards from Cynthia. Can he draw the custom catchers to lock this game up, or will he play another turn?
1 custom catcher there. Couple Beast Rings, those don't do anything. Beast Energy, that doesn't do anything either. Wow, I think he might have just not been able to get there. No Ultra Beast. Oh, no, he does have an Ultra Beast in hand, so he'll be able to discard that to draw 3 more.
Yeah, he's still got outs here. I think he's just making sure he knows exactly what's going on. Here's 3 cards.
No, Beast Ring's not what you need. Welder, no. Ultra Space, no. I don't think he got it.
Looks like we are going to play another turn of this game unless something truly wacky happens off of this Ultra Space here.
Well, so he's going to probably have to retreat to something like the Ditto. And then your opponent's going to, Eric's going to be able to just, all right, I'm going to Evil Admonition, take the knockout, something like that. But then he's just going to have, what, 1 more turn to try to get it?
I mean, we're just going to basically be in the same position as we were last turn as long as Eric doesn't pull something out. So this game is actually coming down to the wire. We thought this game wouldn't be this close. Even in the early turns, we thought this game wasn't going to be very close, and it actually turns out that it is. It's going right down to the very last turns, the very last prizes taken. Anyone's game at this point.
There's the charging up, looking to retreat. Could retreat to that Mew then, too. Being able to save that Ditto for possibly another Naganadel. Cynthia off the top, though, for Eric here. His hand was drawing pretty dead, too. So this Cynthia could be huge. Yeah, you flip 2 coins for Stadium Nav. Oh, Snake Eyes.
He flips the first one and just puts the Stadium Nav in the discard pile. Clearly doesn't care.
I'm gonna ultra space. All right, go for it.
Uses that Ultra Space, checking to see. Yep, okay, I got 2 custom catchers left in my deck. 3. All right, I got pretty good odds.
You have 3 left. I didn't say there's any other supporters in his hand besides Cynthia, so he's going to reset with that, trying to get as many cards out of his hand as possible here. There's the attachment, and here's the Cynthia. And we're actually just right back where we were last turn. Can he draw the custom catchers to finish this game, or will we see another turn played from Wesley?
And again, this is the stuff you see when you lose Guzma in the format. That Cynthia could have just been a Guzma and be like, oh yeah, I have game.
Yeah, exactly. It shows you how much worse, basically, the custom catcher is than Guzma, how many more resources it takes to commit to it. We're going to see 6 fresh cards.
All right, here we go. Does he hit 2 custom catcher? No, I see 1. And again, just not getting the cards they need off of Cynthia. These players back and forth just whiffing.
I don't know the contents of Wesley's hand, but you got to think he is favored here now. He has so few cards in his deck. If he has any kind of straight draw, I got to imagine he's going to...
So there's a welder in his hand, but I don't believe he has a fire energy.
He kind of draws the card and separates it. Yeah, there's actually nothing.
Yeah, I don't believe he has an Ultra Beast left with Ultra Space either. That's really his only out to draw cards here. Man, this is looking rough.
Yeah, wow, he's gotta consider all of it.
And there we go.
Hand.
Game 1 goes to Eric Brooks here, surviving his opponent, just not getting the second custom catcher.
Yeah, so we expected Eric to be able to take the game. We expected the matchup was good for him. That Tapu Fini was going to be good for him. And really,
it starts the Tapu Fini.
Yeah, he starts the Tapu Fini, gets the knockouts, and obviously Tapu Fini did a lot of work, but that wasn't nearly as close. Or that was a lot closer than I thought it would be. Rather, that was not nearly as much of a blowout from Eric's side. I thought. I mean, 1 or 2 cards different, and that game could have gone entirely differently.
Yeah, and Eric really playing around Burst GX beautifully there. Never getting down to 1 prize. You just know, like, well, they only have to take 5 prizes because they get 1 free.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the things I love about this stage of competition. You know, I love Pokemon. I love Pokemon all its forms, but I love high stakes, highly competitive Pokemon. And when you're at this stage of the game, you know, every missed custom catcher just feels so much worse because you're playing for day 2 of Worlds. You're playing what is likely the highest EV tournament you've ever played. You have the highest equity, and just missing one of those cards can feel so good, can feel so bad, or it can feel so good when you do draw it. There's so much on the line here as these players set up for game 2.
Yeah, and let's see if Eric can try to recover from those late game whiffs there. Reset stamp coming in handy for both players too. Making its mark yet again.
Seeing some prizes here from Eric.
Nothing too bad. The tag switch, you don't play too many copies of that. He only plays 2 Pokemon Communication. So he only has 1 of those as an out to search for that Tapu Fini this game.
There's the handshake, and we are off here. Wesley, of course, going first. Ditto Prism Star Ultra Space. Might be setting up for a Lily later in the turn.
Yeah, still, anytime you get an Ultra Space turn 1 in your hand, that's probably the best thing you can ask for when you're Blacephalon deck. It is, again, one of the most consistent decks for being a deck that plays a stage 1.
Absolutely, Ultra Space just does so much. All of the Ultra Beast support. Looks like that Ultra Space is going to get a Blacephalon GX. Mysterious Treasure, another way of searching out Pokemon here. Limited to your types, but luckily for Wesley, Poiple, and Naganadel are both psychic types, so Mysterious Treasure can find them all day long.
Just got unlucky. What happens?
Oh, yeah. And again, so that Tapu Fini is just the big bad waiting in the back. You know it's going to come out this game. You just hope your opponent can't really search it for the first few turns. You get set up to where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you really have to try to mitigate the Tapu Fini. We actually did, see Wesley do a good job of trying to make the Tapu Fini's impact less than the last game, but just couldn't quite get there.
And this is one of the detrimental parts of playing a deck like Blacephalon is you have 16 energy cards in your deck, 15 fire and a Beast Energy Prism. when you even get to play a card like Lily on turn 1 to draw 5 cards, we saw there he drew like 4 energy. Now he doesn't really have a supporter for next turn. He's going to rely on that Ultra Space to maybe even get Ultra Conversion and try to do some shenanigans that way and try to draw out of this hand.
Well, it's also a difficult spot to be in, right? Because then one of your Poiples is not going to be charging up for the rest of the game, so it's not even perfect. Like, yeah, it's definitely definitely a lot. I think the decks are a lot more inconsistent in this format than they've been previously.
All right, and there's the Ultra Space, gets that Dawn Wings, Necrozma GX. Oh, he drew the Pokemon communication for the turn. That is pretty insane when you think about it, especially because it's the only one in the deck right now.
Yeah, so it's Ultra Space. Just search your deck for any Pokemon that you want, thanks to that communication.
Yeah, who needs Ultra Ball when you got Ultra Space?
Yeah, that's all you need. And we see Electromagnetic Radar come down here.
Looks like he's opting for that Zeraora GX and that Pikachu and Zekrom GX. Again, Full Blitz is your main attack. It's how you charge up for the rest of the game. The whole point is to get to that. And here, I think we might see a search for the Prism. It really depends. Yeah, and there we go. Prism coming down. He still needs a lot to actually attack this turn. But he does have a few outs, but it mostly involves that Thunder Mountain Prism Stadium.
Yeah, he needs a lot to attack this turn, but he is getting set up pretty well. You see the Zeraora, very important support Pokemon on the bench. Same can be said for that Tapu Koko Prism Star. His main attacker on the bench as well, drawing a fresh hand of 6. Maybe it's weird because Pikachu and Zekrom has these really explosive turns, so it's hard to call anything, the optimal turn or a fine turn when you consider the truly unreal things this deck can do. But you can't really complain about getting all your attackers and getting all your support Pokemon on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part, right? Is getting that Tapu Koko Prism down for you to use that Dance of the Ancients to power up an attack. But, ooh, no energy in hand for Eric here. He was really looking to draw an Electromagnetic Radar and discard an energy so you can at least Dance of the Ancients for the full 2. And, oh, man, looking at this hand, it's not stuff you want to discard. There's 2 Electro Power, 2 Cynthia, and a Custom Catcher. Or, sorry, Cynthia and a Volkner.
Yeah, it looks like Electromagnetic Radar is going to get rid of those supporters you just mentioned.
All right, and there is a Dedenne GX eyeing down as well. Dedenne Change, just an amazing ability. Really was played a lot in the Pikachu and Zekrom before, like maybe 1 or 2 copies. But now, since the format has rotated, it's just come into the forefront. Like, this is your setup Pokemon for a lot of the decks, especially with something like Cherish Ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Cherish Ball plays a big part in that, too, now that you do actually have a consistent way to search it out. There's no more Tapu Lele. This is kind of your setup Pokemon. And, hey, we gave you this little gift that most decks can play, too, just to find it.
All right, double Electro Power, Custom Catcher, and this happens to me every single time. You Custom Catcher to draw some cards, just so you can dig for more stuff, and you draw another Custom Catcher. It is inevitable, like taxes.
Well, there we go. We see the Dedenne Change. Attachment first at hand. Volkner gets discarded 6 fresh cards.
The last 2 Electro Powers in his deck. Has the Stadium Nav, but again, not really much else. He won't be able to retreat that active. No energy switch.
Looks like we're going to see the Dance of the Ancients take place here.
Just dancing all over his opponent.
Attaching that energy, just for the 1 energy, to the Pikachu and Zekrom on the bench.
Yeah, and again, we saw him opt not to discard the energy with the Dedenne Change. And because of that, Dance of the Ancients only got that 1 Lightning.
We were complaining about Wesley's hand, and he just drew a Welder off the top.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what this deck does.
There's the Welder. 2 energy on the Blacephalon GX, 3 new cards.
Ooh,
Wesley.
Heat Factory off the top, as well as another Welder and B-String for the next following turns. His setup is looking pretty sweet here. Has Naganadel in his hand. Ultra Space still to be used. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Wesley turn in the corner.
you know, we just saw the power of Welder there. I mean, obviously, any supporter there would have really helped. You know, he was just looking for a way to actually draw cards and change within his hand. But that Welder just shows you how powerful it is with, I'm going to celebrate your energy, and I'm going to draw cards. You're playing a deck that is based on accelerating energy. You can't really ask for more.
Yeah, and one thing of note for Wesley's deck is some of the stuff that you've seen on stream or in the tournament room, they play something like that Ninetales from Team Up. They play Persian, different things like that. He's really just straightforward, consistent. I'm playing 4 Blacephalon, 4 Naganadel, and then just one of the GX. And that's pretty much my guys, and I'm good with those.
Consistency is king here, as we see Wesley with 2 Naganadels. Going to go ahead and retreat 1. There's the big Blacephalon in the active position.
Yeah, and he'll have to discard essentially all of his energy in play except for 1, but will be able to take the knockout on the active Detonate GX and push himself closer to that day 2 invite.
And there we go. Big knockout. 2 prizes for Wesley. Only 4 prizes remaining between him and day 2 of the World Championship.
All right, gets a Cynthia off of the prizes. Not too shabby. Still, the double Beast Ring in his hand is so scary. All right, we got Nav, Tails, and Tails again. And this is the problem with the card. It's so good, especially because it just means I can Vulcaner for this, which means I get a Thunder Mountain Prism.
Right, you can basically Vulcaner for a 3rd card, but
yeah,
those flips, it doesn't always work out. And we saw, you know, the last game we saw him just flip the first coin. He was just getting rid of the Stadium Nav, not to redraw it again. But this time he really cared about how that second coin went. Unfortunately, both of them came up tails.
And opts to get the reset stamp off this Vulcaner. He will be able to attack because he just needs to attach an energy for that full blitz. So reset stamp really trying to get rid of Wesley's giant hand. Does have that Raichu, Alolan Raichu in his hand as well to full blitz 2 if he wants.
2 really powerful item cards there, Electro Power, and the reset stamp you just mentioned. We've seen Wesley actually draw pretty well off of these reset stamps in the past. Haven't seemed to hurt him too much, but who knows if this one will be more of the same.
All right, and there is the full blitz charging up that Raichu, Alolan Raichu GX on the bench. And it is now playtime. Eric is in full swing of things, and Wesley will need to draw into some pretty good cards off this reset stamp to 4.
He does get 5 cards after his draw for the turn, of course.
Yeah, and remember that Blacephalon's knocked out. All he has is those Naganadels in play. Does have that Heat Factory, though, to try to get him a little bit more cards.
Yeah, the Heat Factory here is actually huge. That if that had gotten bumped, it would have just kind of reduced his number of outs by so much.
Oh, this is awkward, though. No Fire Energy in hand. He does draw a Cherish Ball for the turn, so he'll be able to search for a Blacephalon or something like the Detonate if he wants to. Also has that Ultra Space, but often or not, you kind of want to leave that Heat Factory in play.
Yeah, exactly. And just have a Lily for the turn, too, just not going to be the most powerful one. Definitely not what he was hoping for when he passed the turn before he got reset stamped.
Yeah, but his hand is looking pretty good, though. Lily, Cynthia, and Welder as his options. Of course, Welder is not really an option with no fire in hand, but being able to draw out of that reset stamp could keep him in this game and hopefully have him tie it up.
Now he's debating whether to play the Ultra Space Stadium and maybe make his draw a little bit more consistent, or to leave the very powerful Prism Star Stadium in play.
Oh, that's such a rough decision. So it could get another Naganadel, could even get the GX to draw you more cards later down the line, but I feel like this is the right option, just leaving that Heat Factory in play. You could even draw into the Ultra Space and still use it after you use the Heat Factory.
Yeah, Heat Factory is just so powerful that we just spent the whole last turn talking about how Heat Factory staying in play was so important that I don't think you just want to actually bump it yourself. I think it's a tough decision, but I think the upside of having the Heat Factory there, if you draw well off of this, is so huge. But this Cynthia is really going to determine the rest of this of the rest of this game here. He really needs to put something together. A lot of outs in this deck, pretty consistent build here, but will he be able to do it?
Looking at that hand, though, it doesn't look too good. I think, yeah, there's one B string.
Yeah, a bunch of cards.
With that, he'll actually have the knockout if he gets rid of all the energy.
Yeah, so there's the B string, catching 2 energy straight from the deck to that Blacephalon GX, building it up a bit. We also see a mysterious treasure here. B string, one of the really powerful reasons, kind of the whole reason to play this deck really is to have access to all the beast support, beast string, beast energy, ultra space, just all that stuff works so well together and makes your deck that much more consistent and that much more powerful.
Yeah, and if you look here, he actually has the best of both worlds, drawing 2, or at least drawing the Mysterious Treasure, being able to search for that Naganadel GX, and it still has that Heat Factory in play. He could draw 6 cards after he already Cynthia'd.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, this has just been a quite...
On top of Detonate GX.
Yeah, Cherish Ball turns into another 6 cards, so, I mean, this guy's going to be drawing cards all day.
I mean, that's how you win, right? Just keep drawing cards?
I mean, it definitely shows the consistency, right? Like, each time that he's been reset stamped, it hasn't really hurt him. And sure, part of that's, luck of the draw, the cards that are on top of his deck, but a lot of that is just the deck is very singularly focused and can do a lot.
2 more B strings for Wesley here. I don't know if he has another Blacephalon, but he'll still be able to get a ton of energy in play and put a lot of pressure.
One of the coolest things I think about cards like B-String, obviously they're very, very powerful, but I like the little bit of tension that exists in situations like this where it's like, well, I guess I just have to play the B-String. I can only use it for some portions of the game, but it's not really at its best here. Is there anything else I can do? I like when cards are situationally powerful like that.
Yeah, and you can get into an awkward spot too, where if you use too many B-Strings, and then you don't have more of a chance to draw into the fire energies to turn on your welders.
Right, exactly. And Wesley's turn is not over. We see another Cherish Ball.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needed, drawing into a way to get another Blacephalon GX, and this is turning out to be one of the best turns Wesley could possibly have. 3 B-String, and he is still not done.
Yeah, he got reset stamped, and then all of this happened. If you were to just, watch Wesley get reset stamped, walk away, and just come back, you'd be like, what's going on?
What happened? Is it still the same turn?
Is it still the same game? All right, so 6 energy on the board, soon to be 7. 3 B-Strings that turn, 2 Blacephalon GXs.
It's just insane to think about. He still has that altar space in his hand, too. Doesn't need it. But if he wants, that could be another draw 3 with that Naganadel GX.
There's the attachment for turn. Looks like he is considering replacing the stadium. Ooh. Teasing us there, not going to actually do it, leaving the Heat Factory in play, taking a big GX knockout.
Oh, looking like, there we go, 5 energy, taking the knockout, going down to 1 prize card left, and he'll have the game locked up with just a Burst GX next turn.
Yeah, it's not really a whole lot that Eric can do at this point. I think, yeah, they're just...
Oh, yeah, he's like, yeah, I have Burst GX. You want to go to game 3? All right, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Both players know what's up at this level of competition. Both players know exactly how the turns can play out, everything that their opponent is capable of. And Wesley has managed to tie things up here.
Yeah, and one thing you haven't seen that game from Eric, Tapu Fini.
Tapu Fini, yeah, really did make the difference, taking 3 prizes in the first game, basically for free at the cost of a card and energy. And this game not showing up at all made a huge difference there. In fairness to Eric, I also think that last turn from Wesley was just better than he could have expected if he got to start the turn with his 8-card hand or whatever, much less after being reset stamped.
I'm pretty sure he basically got every card he would want if he picked the hand himself.
Right, exactly. He could have stacked the deck and had a hand like that. But that just shows you the power and the swinginess of things like B-String, of cards like Blacephalon GX, just so powerful, able to win the game out of nowhere. You know, each time that we'll say it again, each time that we've had this deck on stream, it's just been, yeah, I mean, he would just need a lot, right?
Slugging along, like maybe it'll get there. Oh no, it gets there, and it gets there every time.
It remained to be seen whether he will actually take the match or if the Pikachu and Zekrom, what we think has the better matchup kind of in the dark.
Well, this hand looks pretty good here from Wesley, having a supporter, a Mysterious Treasure, and a couple Pokemon as well. Prize that Beast Energy again, and then as well as his second Denene GX. Could come in, but who knows? Nothing too bad here. Double Volkner, but he still plays 2. So as long as he gets a prize, it's actually better for him. You take a prize, get a Volkner for the prize, it's like, oh, cool. I'll need that for next turn.
All right, and just about 7 minutes remaining here in round 7 here at day 1 of the World Championships. Both of these players desperately want to win this match and advance to day 2, but do they have the time to do it?
Yeah, it looks like Eric has a pretty consistent turn 2 full blitz hand. Having discarded those 2 Lightning Energy, has the Prism Stadium in his hand as well. So he might just have to play a little conservative until next turn, but it's looking pretty good.
Kind of start we typically see from these sort of Pikachu and Zekrom decks: electromagnetic radar, putting energy in the discard pile. He's definitely taking his time here. Definitely does not want to miss anything at this high of level of play when so much is on the line.
Yeah, and this is the risky part too, because a lot of the times with the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, you kind of just like, I'm going to go out there, discard a bunch of stuff just to try to get my attacks. Like, I'm going to make it for sure. But some of the times you're like, well, I kind of want to play it safe. I'll attach an energy, pass, and then just wait until next turn, because sometimes that Thunder Mountain Prism could be just gone.
Right, I think that's really what separates, what really shows the skill of each player here is when to know the difference in doing that, right? When to know when to go in fully and try to take a big knockout, and when to know when to be a little bit more conservative.
Yeah, but Eric is going in fully here, playing down a bunch of cards, and then Dead Change still has not played a supporter for the turn, has a couple prized, so this hand is not looking very good here. Oh, man. He even dug through 2 extra cards with that custom catcher.
Yeah, still didn't really hit much he can put together here.
Has attached for the turn already. Both tag switch are gone. Still has energy switch left. But that hand is not looking very good right now. And compared to Wesley's, it's nothing.
Yeah, he says to pass the turn over to Wesley, who's playing very quickly, realizing he is under pressure.
Yeah, under 5 minutes remaining to go in this match. A tie does nothing for these players. It's essentially a loss.
Yeah, we'll give them another shot, but both of these players wanted to leave this table advancing to day 2. And the next 5 minutes are going to determine whether or not that's possible.
All right, Mysterious Treasure gets Poipole. Cherish Ball gets another Blacephalon GX. And then Cynthia coming down for Wesley. It'll be a pretty big 6 cards. If it's anything like the 6 cards from Eric, maybe the game will end in a tie.
And I really appreciate Wesley's pace of play here, realizing what's on the line. He knows that he needs to finish this match, or the whole thing was kind of for naught. Let's see what these 6 cards bring. This is going to determine a lot for the rest of this game and the fate of the tournament for these 2 players.
All right, there's an energy at least. He'll be able to burst GX this turn if he wants. But again, wow, no supporter for next turn or a way to get Denene GX, and discards the Denene GX from his prize. Is like, oh man, I could really use that right now.
GX marker has been flipped. 5 prizes remaining for Wesley. 3.5 minutes remaining, or 4 minutes remaining in this match. Has Eric's hand improved? Can he put anything together here? He does have a Dedenne.
Yeah, he drew the Denene for the turn, and that's exactly what he needed.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how his hand was full of cards he didn't really need, and you know that's great for Dedenne change, right? I mean, he just have obviously getting rid of resources is never where you want to be, but sometimes you have to do it.
Oh, so now we see Eric burning all the cards. He chooses not to burn the reset stamp. That is a good instinct from Eric here. kind of sensing his opponent has a pretty weak hand after that Cynthia and going, okay, well, I'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd rather just this card do nothing and be in the discard pile. I'm going to draw 6 either way, and I have a read that your hand is bad. Hopefully that read is correct.
He does draw a Pokemon Communication, but having attached already for the turn, that means Tapu Fini cannot come out and deal with this Blacephalon, at least right now the way it is. But Volkner could see something like Energy Switch. Ooh, yes.
So that's exactly, he checked to make sure the Tapu Fini was in there, and then the Energy Switch, grabbed the Energy Switch immediately.
Yeah, so the other route he can go is actually Communication for the Coco Prism. He already played the Electro Power, so he can just full blitz to take the knockout, charge up the Raichu on the bench. And it's probably the better play. Your opponent isn't really threatening a knockout on a tag team, and then that way you save the Tapu Fini for later.
You see Wesley already ready to put that Blacephalon GX in the discard pile. He wants this game to advance one way or another. He knows what's coming. You can see the writing on the wall.
Oh, yeah, and with the Thunder Mountain Prism, just this is enough. Being able to full blitz for more than enough, thanks to that double E power. Now just decides, so he has that Pikachu and Zekrom GX in the hand, but doesn't want to bench it because of that Pokemon Communication. So opts just to take the full blitz.
Going to go ahead and attach 3 Lightning Energy to that Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Takes 2 prizes, does Eric. Back at Wesley's turn now.
All right, but we got Mysterious Treasure. He'll be able to get, I believe, oh, he'll be able to take the knockout if he gets the regular Naganadel. But if he gets the GX, he'll be able to draw. And yeah, there we go.
B-String.
B-String has another B-String as well. And he'll at least take 3 prizes and go down to 2 here. And it'll be back on Eric to see if he has something like an Electro Power to take the knockout or go for that Tapu Fini play.
And it just goes to show you how some well-timed B-Strings can absolutely swing the entire momentum of a game here. We have that Blacephalon fully loaded up. All those energy are attached.
Custom Catcher, draw 3 cards. Welder off the top.
Wow.
Not too shabby. B-String again, but he does not have another Blacephalon to charge it up. And with this active one almost for sure going away, there's the Ultra Conversion. And off the top.
Blacephalon. Wow.
And gets a Cynthia, so for next turn, he's looking pretty good.
Wow, both of these games have just shown these absolutely unreal turns from the Blacephalon deck and how quickly things can change due to the power of B-String.
Yeah, and this is what's so important about being able to play around your opponent's B-String turns. And that's why people would kind of think like, well, Pikachu and Zekrom GX kind of has a good matchup because you can just tag bolt, but you really don't get to that point.
Right, exactly. It's always, ever since B-String was introduced, it's always been a strategy to kind of maybe slow your own game plan down and not take all the knockouts you want to because you need to skip the B-String turns. Was not an option for Eric here.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that Wesley started with 0 fire energy in play this turn.
And now he has, what, 9?
9.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Welder, B-String, wow, just...
These turns from Wesley has been insane.
Yeah, Blacephalon has impressed me so much during the course of this tournament. Just so much powerful support. It looks like time has expired in the round.
All right, this is pretty important here. Wesley only having this turn and 1 more to try to take the match. Meanwhile, Eric will need to take 2 GX knockouts back to back. If not, this game could end up in a tie.
And now that time has expired, you do see Wesley slowing down his game plan a little bit, making sure he's doing everything exactly right. The clock is no longer a problem here as we move to the first of 3 turns for Eric.
All right, so I have to believe we're going to see that Tapu Fini this turn. It's the one way that Wesley doesn't take a knockout and just win the game next turn. Force him to search for his custom catchers. And depending on what he's played, I know he played the one last turn. But who knows if he has the other two left.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's left in either player's deck at this point. You see a Volkner for a reset stamp, resetting Wesley's hand down to 2.
There's the Pokemon communication searching out that Tapu Fini, being able to knock out this Blacephalon GX in the active spot. And again, time was called, so this is turn 1 of 3, meaning next turn is Wesley's last turn to try to seal up this victory.
There is that Tapu Fini, that important
Could you
silver bullet Pokemon.
Just imagine if those 2 cards were double custom catcher. Just flips it over.
Draws them face up. There's the Tapu Fini. Raichu and Alolan Raichu relegated to the bench for now. It's Tapu Fini's time to shine.
Time to ride the nature wave. 200 damage for 1 energy.
All right, Wesley's last turn. This is turn 2. Cephalon getting promoted to the active.
Welder off the top with a hand of Fire Energy Ultra Space. He'll be able to draw a few cards this turn. Ultra Space, of course, paired with that Ultra Conversion. Just such good consistency for this deck.
Yeah, and important to remember, this is Wesley's last turn, so it doesn't matter what resources he throws away. He just needs to win here.
There is 2 custom catcher left in the deck, so there is an out for victory. Just can Wesley find it?
Ultra Space finds the Blacephalon. That is going to be translated into 3 cards from his deck, I suspect. Really high tension, high pressure moment here for Wesley.
And of course, you want to start out with that Ultra Conversion too. You don't want to limit yourself to playing that Welder as your only supporter, especially if you draw something like Cynthia or Lily.
Of course, yeah, the Ultra Space is just free. Take the Pokemon, discard it, draw cards immediately.
Big 3 cards, gets a Lily, gets a Heat Factory as well as an Energy.
Well, he's going to be able to draw through so much here.
So now's the thing though, like with all this draw power, is Lily even that good? So you attach to the active, play the Heat Factory, Lily for 4.
We can't play the Heat Factory, right? He played the Ultra Space this turn?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so rough.
Yeah, Heat Factory is actually going to be turned off here, so he's just looking to see what.
So then I think Welder is probably the play then.
Probably. I mean, he would Lily for 2 cards.
Oh, man.
And not get any acceleration.
He has to Welder into double custom catcher here.
Here we go.
Does he get it? No. No.
No.
It does not look like he'll have another way. I believe he might have a Dedenne GX left in the deck. We know he discarded one off that Burst GX, but I don't think he's used one this game. And there it is.
There it is. We're going to find out right now. Dead change.
Every time you think he's just out of draw power, he comes back with another.
Just looking through the deck, making sure. Okay, yep, they're both in there. Really fortunate for Wesley too not to draw one of them in this case, right? Like they're still both in there. Can't see quite how many cards are in his deck, but he's gone through so many cards this turn.
This is one of the biggest draw 6s of Wesley's career in Pokemon TCG right now.
I'm not sure if there's any other cards he needs to play out from his hand. Doesn't look like it.
All right, Dead change, and this will decide the game here. Does he get double custom catcher?
6 cards. Oh,
1.
Slow.
Last card.
The slow roll.
It is not.
It's not the custom catcher.
Oh, so that means Wesley will not be able to win this turn. And now we're in the exact same position we were in game 1, where, oh, I need double custom catcher to win this game. Okay, well, now we're going to go to Eric. He's going to need double custom catcher to win the game.
Exactly.
Look at that stare down. Oh, man.
What a tense moment. Definitely the highest tension, kind of highest value moment either of these players have ever played in their careers, I'd imagine. The winner of this match, if there is one, will advance to day 2. The loser will have to try again next round.
Oh, that's so heartbreaking for Wesley. He was so close. So much draw potential. And again, off of a reset stamp, he's able to draw like 12 cards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, reset stamp has done nothing. He's impervious to it here. Looks like there's maybe some discussion about where energies have been attached.
He's like, yeah, I have not attached an energy this turn.
Yeah.
Welder did it for me. And there we go. Mind blown, take the knockout, go down to 1 prize, but that's not going to be enough.
But he shows him the electro power.
Yeah, had the electro power for the knockout, opted not to go for the tie here, which was pretty good anyway. So Wesley needing 1 more win next round to make it in. But meanwhile, Eric Brooks, 6-1 here. He will punch in his ticket to day 2.